Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to New York University, Casa Italiana, Zerilli-Marimò. We are at the end of a very long week. As some of you know, we started Sunday. Normally we are closed on Saturday and Sunday to sanctify the holidays, as they say. But we couldn't this past Sunday because it was the National Italian Day, the Festa della Repubblica. And we started this cinematographic marathon that is coming to an end today. And of course, it's coming to an end with a big bang. And as you know, we have a double program today. We have the presentation and inauguration of the exhibit of photographs dedicated to the Leopard. The Leopard, as you know, is one of the most important films, not only in Italian cinematography, but in world cinema. And we were lucky enough to get to meet Ralph Toporoff, that ended up, as we will find out in the Q&A that is going to follow the screening of this documentary, on the set of that historical film in 1962 in Rome. And Ralph is going to tell us how and when and what happened on that set. And he's right there, right behind you. Ralph, wave your hand so people know who you are. Thank you. It's 50 years. The Leopard turns 50 this year. 2013, it was made in 1963. And as I said, immediately after the documentary that we are seeing now, there is the documentary on the making of the Leopard. It was a huge, colossal production. It was a production that involved a cast that was international, American, French, Italian, much more, as you will hear from Ralph, and as some of you might have heard from the video that we posted on our website. Everybody spoke in his or her own language. So Claudia Cardinale spoke Italian, Alain Delon spoke French, Burt Lancaster spoke English. It was like Babel after the fact. But everything made sense. And so in the documentary, you will have a chance to hear from people that were on the set, from the co-screenwriter Suso Cecchi D'Amico to Claudia Cardinale herself, and many other people. It's about an hour. After the screening of the documentary, we are going to have a chance to have a Q&A with Ralph Toporoff, who's going to tell us about his own personal experience on the set of the Leopard, in a conversation with Maria Politano, who is also the curator of the exhibit. And after that, we are going to have a reception to celebrate not only the Leopard, but the great tradition and the photographs of Ralph, but also the great tradition of Italian cinema. Fittingly enough, the reception is catered by a restaurant called Il Gattopardo. That happens to be right behind MoMA in Midtown. So it's going to be fun. And immediately after the reception, around 7, we're going to come back down here with contemporary Italian cinema. So we begin with 1963 and a great classic of Italian cinema, The Leopard. And at 7, we'll have with us the directors and actors that are in New York right now for Open Roads, that, as you know, is the Italian Film Festival at Lincoln Center. So stay with us. It's a full day. There is nothing much to do outside today, right? It's a perfect day to come to a place like this and enjoy cinema, good food, and some drinks. I just wanted to thank the Criterion Collection. This is a documentary that you find both in the DVD and in the Blu-ray version of the special edition of the Leopard that they prepared. So there are also several extra bonuses in those very precious boxes they prepared, and they prepared these documentary especially for the release of the DVD. So as you know, we have a very full evening, and before we go up to enjoy ourselves with the reception, we have the great fortune. I hope all of you have had a chance to take a look at the beautiful photographs that we have upstairs. And if you haven't, of course, do once you get upstairs. And some of them here in the foyer of our auditorium. And I don't want to say anything else, but I would like to invite Ralph Toporoff and Maria Politano to take a seat there. Maria is the curator of the exhibit, and Andrea De Fusco here is the co-curator of the exhibit. I thank them both very much for having brought to my attention the work of Ralph that I did not know before. And I thank Ralph for his wonderful generosity in sharing with us the pictures that he took some 50 years ago in Rome. Please welcome Ralph Toporoff.
Good evening to, okay, here we start the first problem, technology. Okay, here we are. Yeah, it was. Good evening, thank you to everyone for coming here tonight, despite the global warming, so thank you again. I'm Maria Politano, the curator of this exhibition, and I would like to take a chance to thank many people that helped us to put together this project. First, Stefano Albertini, the director of the Casa Italiana, and the Casa Italiana staff. Thank you for your help. Andrea De Fusco, the co-curator. Thank you, Andrea. Stan Ho, who's the manager of the film poster. Here it is. Hi, Stan. Posteritati. He gave us 2 beautiful regional posters that you see at the entrance. And so I would just want to say a couple words about Ralph. I met Ralph because I was teaching him Italian. I'm also teaching Italian and Italian cinema at Hunter College. And then soon he decided that Italian language doesn't make any sense, too many rules, too many exceptions. I agreed. So we started talking instead about cinema and photography. And when I saw his photos, I thought that they were really beautiful and must be shown and shared. And that's why we are here. Thank you again for coming and support us. Thank you. Hello.
Hello.
So based on what we just saw, the documentary, I would like to know your impression, of course, on the documentary, but also 50 years ago, you were 20 years old, you were on the actual set. So tell me a little bit about your own experience, what it meant for you to be there, and how you end up to be on the set of the Leopard.
Oh, okay. Well, there's 2 stories. One is how I got there.
Yeah.
How I got there is I was on my way to Sicily by invitation of the mafia to come and do an article with the head of the mafia in Sicily. And you've never gotten an invitation? And I got to Rome, and there was a liaison there, and he said, well, there's going to be a 2-week delay, so you should stay in Rome. And I said, okay. And he said, well, are you interested in something? I said, yes, I was what they call a reportage photographer. I did works for magazines, and he said, I said, I'm very interested in Italian cinema. So he said, well, there's 2 films shooting in town. Maybe you'd like to get on the set of these 2 films. One's called Il Gattopardo, and the other one is called Quattro Verite, which I'm sure everybody knows, right? Yeah, right. Okay. And I said, great. And the next thing I knew, there I was on the set of Il Gattopardo, and had an opportunity to shoot the photos you see upstairs.
And how was your experience being on the set and work around Visconti and these actors?
Well, I didn't work around Visconti at all. I was a guest, so I was pushed to the side. So I wasn't working around Visconti, but I mean, I watched him work, and it was an incredible experience to watch somebody like that. And also, I think eventually it really did influence my whole take on making motion pictures, because I grew up in the United States. My experience with film was Abbott and Costello. And suddenly I get to Italy, and here's a very, very serious, important film being made. And it did change my perspective about how films are made and what to do with them.
Yeah, and when was the first time actually you watched an Italian movie? Can you tell me?
Oh,
that?
All right. Well, this goes back a while. This goes back before that. When I was 15, growing up, and during summers you used to get summer vacations, and in those times you always try to get a job for the summer. So I grew up on Long Island. I went out to Long Beach. And there was a art theater there that needed some help. They were hiring kids to work in the art theater. Now, what an art theater was back then was they showed films with subtitles. That was an art theater. And as I said, my experience with films were American movies and everything else like that. And I was working in this art theater. And this movie comes up. It's an Italian movie is being shown. And it's called Bitter Rice. With Silvano Mangano, right? Okay, yeah. Well, I'm 14, 15, and I'm looking, these are Italian rice workers? And I immediately decided that I'd either want to become an Italian rice grower or get into the movie business. So that's sort of how the first influence was that way. And then later on, going to Europe and basing myself in Paris as a reportage photographer. That was the next experience, and that was with Italian cinema.
In the article you wrote for the 2010 release Criterion Collection Blu-ray DVD of The Leopard, you wrote that this was filmmaking in the truest sense of the three dimension. And so can you explain a little bit more about that? Because right now there is The Great Gatsby based on a book, 3D. We had Avatar in 3D, but 50 years ago already, Visconti was making The Leopard on 3D in accordion.
Right. Well, I mean, my career started as a still photographer. I did that for 7 years. I came back to the United States and was able to move into the movie industry. So I got into the movie industry. Where are we now?
We are on your article.
Oh, the article, right. Okay. So the article was, I was asked by, I don't know, Roy, is Roy here? No. Okay. Anyway, I was asked by somebody to write an article about The Leopard because Criterion had just released the 2010 version of The Leopard on Blu-ray, and I had been on the set, and they knew about my photographs. And it was all about this idea of 3D, because all of a sudden, bam, 2010, 3D just exploded out of Hollywood, and everything was 3D, right? And everybody was praying to Avatar. I remember all the bowing that was going on, and all the cameras were being converted to 3D cameras and everything else. And they asked me to write this article about 3D. And I said, well, I think if you want to talk about 3D movies, let's talk about The Leopard. That's a three-dimensional movie, all right? Avatar is a really bad science fiction movie with 3D. And, but here was a 3D movie. It had plot, it had character, it had actors, it had substance, it had story. So to me, this is the essence of 3D in film. I don't know a mechanical device like 3Dimension is that important in the overall scheme of things. I mean, I spent my first 25 years as a cinematographer. So for 3D, for me, it's never been anything but a tool. But I think if you want to talk about three-dimensional movies, you have to talk about movies like Il Gattopardo, and not necessarily hold Avatar up as the pinnacle of 3D motion pictures.
Thank you. You are a filmmaker. I mean, transition from photography to filmmaker is a natural transition. Can you tell a little bit about your current projects and your feature film that actually has been revived by the Tribeca Film Institute Reframe program?
I have a typical Hollywood horror story about the distribution of my motion picture, which takes a while. But what's interesting, and talk about how I was influenced by Europe, by going back to Europe and living there for 9 years, and working as a photographer and meeting Italian cinema. And what I was seeing was, when I made my first feature film called American Blue Note, Gilbert, are you here? No, okay. Okay, rain does a wonderful thing. When I made American Blue Note, it was taken to Cannes and it was shown, and a lot of people came up and said, oh, beautiful, great little movie, but too bad you're an American. And I said, what does that mean, too bad I'm American? He said, because they won't take you seriously. See, if you were Swedish or Italian or French and you made this movie, they would take you seriously. But since you're an American, we would consider this a frivolous movie made by an American. So, but the movie was picked up and had a long history of very bad distribution, almost disappeared completely from the world. And I was actually down to one print of this movie was left. And I had to make a decision, and I decided that I would try to do a restoration of this film before it disappears off the planet. And it was through Tribeca Film Institute, who saw the film, picked it up, and actually did the restructuring, the packaging, and bringing the film out as in its full version, which was full widescreen and the full length. Because like the Visconti movie, my movie in America got cut by 5 minutes, also because they didn't like something in my movie. But it was restored and played in Europe in the full length version. So that's the history of American Blue Note.
Do you, coming back again, going back to the Leopard, do you have any particular moment for you very memorable working or shooting Claudia Cardinale on Burt Lancaster?
Yeah, well, I mean, Burt Lancaster was very focused, as they say in the documentary, and I would go try to take pictures of him, and it was either I'd get a hand signal. The hand signal was, that was it, and I don't take pictures of Burt. And then if you go up and you'll see a 4-panel picture of him, that was after the thing, after the take, when it's over, and then you couldn't stop him from talking. And so, but when he was focused and in the zone, that was that, and that was that. And I guess the best experience I had was the photos of Claudia that you see sitting at the table in sort of just a smock. We were supposed to go and do an interview with an interviewer, an interpreter, and her and myself. And for some reason, we all got to the restaurant, and the interviewer and the interpreter got called away, and I was there having lunch with Claudia. And come on, I'm 20 years old. I'm sitting there with Claudia Cardinale, and we're chatting. I don't remember what we're chatting about. In fact, I didn't even care what we were chatting about. I was just thinking, this is the best profession. Photography is a great, great profession. And that's how, that was the experiences there. Yeah.
And we have also another amazing, beautiful photos with Monica Vitti in the Quatre Vérités and Antonioni. How you end up instead shooting Monica Vitti and Antonioni, another great Italian director.
Yeah, the other ones you see downstairs here are from a film called Quatre Vérités, directed by Alessandro Blasetti. And it was Monica Vitti and Razzano Brazzi.
Razzano Brazzi.
Yeah, I always get corrected on that, so I know. And I got a chance to shoot some photos of Monica Vitti. But the reason I have pictures of Antonioni is because you were not allowed to show any pictures of Monica Vitti without having Antonioni's approval of the photographs. So I ended up in his house, his apartment on the river in Rome, and he did the approvals, and I took the pictures, and I got more pictures. So that was the experience of dealing with Monica Vitti and Antonioni.
Thank you very much, Ralph.
Thank you
for being here.
Hey, thanks.
And if it's possible to,
I think we have time maybe for a couple of questions from the audience, and then we move upstairs for our toast.
Yes.
Were you there during the whole shoot of the Leopard?
No, I was there for a week and a half, and that was in Rome, at a villa outside of Rome.
Okay, so you weren't there for the ballroom scene?
No, that was the scene of Donna Fugata, where...
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
When they arrive in their summer residence.
Yeah.
Right. And it was, as they say, hot as Hades down there, and the candles kept melting. And that's what happened with the scene. The candles kept melting, and they had to keep reloading the candles. But because Visconti insisted on real candles, by the time you got the front ones done, all the back ones started to melt again. And yeah.
Any other
Yes.
question for Ralph?
Yeah.